Hey there. So, finally off work and done with this thing called life and able to sit down back at the table and I'm going through all of the comments that you guys left for me. And uh, firstly, thanks again for the encouragement. One of you even wrote me privately and told me not to give up on this. And I do appreciate that. So after reading all the comments, though, I think I've broken just about every rule in the game yesterday. So this playthrough is like a complete waste. And there was a big part of me that was like, you know what, maybe I should reset this and start over. But then I decided, no, I don't want to do that yet because I would like to have a turn where I feel like I got everything pretty much lock, stock, and, two smoking barrels. And this last December 16th, whether it was the first night I played this or the second, I actually think I made more mistakes the second night. But a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, firstly, somebody reminded me you can make your own bridges. So that might be why some of these markers exist for the bridges. What an excellent point. I didn't think about that. Somebody else reminded me that reserves only get deployed one at a time on December 16th. I didn't even remember reading that, and I think it's true. Trying to find it right now, actually. Throughout December 16th, deploy just one Allied reserve unit when performed. It's written right there, second bullet. And so I promise you, I read it. It just totally blew my mind that I didn't, because that deploying reserves was, I think the Allies must have done that 3 times in December 16th. So that's one. Somebody else pointed out, if you can see here, I moved these tanks down because we were steamrolling, right? And I went this way because it was easier than trying to go over the river. But guess what? See that little squiggly line right there? That's for the 6th Army. And these tanks are a part of the 6th Army, so they can't go below this line. So my moving them in here was a mistake. I'd have to rewatch my videos to see, did I actually attack somebody when I did that? I think I did. So, I mean, there's all kinds of, penalty flags to throw into this game. Somebody did explain that when I did the retreat withdrawal action, that this was not enough of a withdrawal because they could still be surrounded. So here's my question. Because I know, I think that was Sir Brastius. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Here's my question for you. How can, this is what's confusing me about the surround rule. I determined that it could not be surrounded because I only have 1, 2, 3 units here. And so you need to have 6 units to surround it. So it was impossible to surround it. I guess these 2 or these 3 used to be here. And so you have a point, except that I was breaking this little rule here. So technically, that brings up 2 questions. I mean, first of all, if there's only 3 of them, is it impossible to be surrounded? So therefore, he wouldn't have withdrawn at all. So that's the first question. The second one is since I know he can't go below these lines, even if it had enough movement points to get down here, I know it's not allowed to go down here. So I'm assuming I don't count those towards the surround rule. So I know that's a fringe thing. And absent any specific thing in the rules, I'm going to rule that he can't be surrounded. In fact, I would rule that he didn't even move at all because these 3 can't surround him. But I'm okay with him retreating to there. The other thought, so that was, I think, a good discussion. And there's at least 12 other things somebody mentioned, and they're all accurate. I mean, after reading them and then looking it up, I mean, somebody thought that a roadblock should have gone somewhere else, and they're probably right. It's really funny because I watched the first 2.5 videos from Heavy Lifting, and he made the comment that it drives him nuts when he has to figure out where a roadblock would go, or things like that, or a reserve unit, because he meticulously checks every possible one. If you haven't figured this out, whenever I play games, I find 3, and even if there was like 8 of them out there, I find 3 and say that's good enough. Let's get going. I usually don't sit there and meticulously check anything. I do that for my career. I meticulously check things in my career, and it's really funny, but whenever I go to my gaming environment, I don't want to do what I do at my job. And so you see it come out, because sometimes I can read these complex rule books and pick it up pretty quick. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time. And I have an ability to be organized when I want to be, but let me just assure you, my comfort zone is not doing that. Those are skills I've picked up throughout my lifetime, and I'm good at them because I've learned to be good at them, but not because that's what I naturally want to do. So anyways, I like being lazy and sloppy. With that said, here we are. We're getting ready to start December 17th. I am going to continue playing, even though I am declaring this playthrough to be a complete flop in terms of rules. I mean, there's so many rules that I broke based on what I read. I certainly don't want to go back and retroactively try to repeat the turn. If that's the case, I'm going to just reset the game and start over. But what I do want to do is continue. And so I'm going to do that. The one thing I wanted to do tonight was, after playing just December 16th, even with whatever rules I got wrong and you guys reminding me of the various things, I now want to go back and read the rule book a second time. Because the first time you read it, you're jumping through sections like nothing. Now I have the experience of trying to play this game, and it's now, when I read the rule book, things make more sense. They pop out at me. It's like, oh, I need to write that down. Oh, that's something I need to know. So that's where I'm at. And I didn't have time to do that tonight. And so instead, I'm very tired. And I wanted to at least get some play in. So I am going to play without having that luxury of reading the rule book a second time. So my apologies there. But let's go ahead and get cracking here. The first thing is with December 17th is a lot of the rules, of course, go away for December 16th. But we now have to do this thing. We're going to have to do a supply check, is what I'm trying to say. I just was caught into reading something else and got distracted. Squirrel! The one thing I am going to fix, though, is I moved these tanks back because I realized I can't go down. I am pretty confident I wanted to go this way then, but I'm on a road, so I'm not too concerned, so I can just flip right around if I needed to. Let's talk December 17th. See what's going on with this. First thing is, if we look at the calendar, this is the field artillery, and that's 3 hexes from a west wall, is what that means. And then the supplemental cards are 7, and the allied command level is 4. So we can only spend 4 points before our impulse ends, which basically means just 1 action in my mind, based on the little bit we've played. So here's what we do. We take all the primaries, and I know it's saying, okay, you're supposed to put the primary discards there and the supplemental discards there. So we'll go ahead and do that. But in a nutshell, the primaries are just going back in the draw pile. So, sorry. So it's a lot easier to do with 2 hands. Okay, so these primaries are all coming back to us. And the primaries are basically one for every corps. The Army groups were the ones that we drew that were pretty interesting. Oh, somebody mentioned that Eisenhower event. He accurately pointed out that the Eisenhower event you can't do until December 17th. And then he pointed out that if you drew it this turn, you're sort of screwed. And then he didn't explain why, but then I sat down and I thought about it. And here's why. You have to discard you have to play until your hand's empty. So it's not like you can keep cards in your hand for the next day. So these supplemental cards are in the discard pile. And I don't know if you remember, but if we go through this little sequence here that explains what happens next, these cards end up back in this pile, but not until after we draw today's deck. So these cards, it's impossible for any of these cards to end up in today's actions. And so if you ended up getting the Roosevelt card on December 16th, it's impossible to get it on the 17th because it's sitting here in the discard pile. So excellent points all around. And I didn't even realize that. The other thing was I think the Vonderheit card I wasn't allowed to do on December 16th. And then something about how they couldn't go into the forest, even though I thought I read that they could. So anyways, yeah, we'll fix some of that stuff too. All right, so first thing I'm going to check, we don't get new cards until December 19th, so nothing worried there. Next thing to check is, you can see here on December 17th, they're going to get a primary and 3 supplemental. It's a reinforcement card schedule, 1 PR and 3 SU. So what's a reinforcement card? So here we go. There's a 17 right there. There was 4 of them. That should be all of them. Let me check. You know, it would benefit if you actually sorted these before you started playing, but that would require me to be more organized than I really am. Okay, so there's 4 of these entered, and I don't know what the PR and the SU stands for. What do you think? Oh, right here, primary. There's 1 primary and 3 supplemental. The thing is primary and supplemental just all get shuffled together. They don't mean anything. But it does say that on the Allied draw pile. So I guess it's just being helpful. So yeah, we shuffle everything up, and the Allied action cards, I don't think anything changes with them. You can see here it says on turns 19 through 23, we add 2 randomly from here. So, oh, and then somebody who was watching said that, so Allied action deck starts with 10 action cards. Somebody said that this text here was written correctly, and I said it was a defect with the board. And they're right, but it's funny how I read this. I read Allied action deck starts with 10 action cards, period. That's how I read that. And then it's putting offensive action in parentheses, removed, period. So the full sentence includes the word removed, but I was reading it without the word removed. And anyways, there is no defect with the game board. So thank you to whoever pointed that out as well. That was actually a couple days ago that somebody pointed that out. I'm just finally remembering. So you have to have a lot of humility to record yourself learning a game. Okay, so back to this. So place reinforcement cards entering play face down in the draw pile. All right, shuffle the supplemental cards. They're already shuffled. Draw the cards indicated for the calendar date. I think it was 7. So we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with a whole 2 of them left over. And then you play the previous days on. And then, of course, we would have to shuffle that. And then we're shuffling these. Then we draw our initial hand for the day, which is going to be 6. So let me get these shuffled. Somebody asked me, Jeff, are you going to just do this recording and then move on to another game? Because they were remembering that I mentioned I have a big queue of games I want to play. Well, they're right about everything. I do have a big queue of games I want to play, but I actually got through a lot of them. The D-Day games were a big group of them, and those were all very meaty games. Probably not as meaty as this one, but they definitely were meaty. The Crisis game was one I absolutely wanted to do, and I did it. The only thing about Crisis is I was going to show you how the hard difficulty was on that, because that's the only way that's challenging in that game. The normal mode is too easy. I also have Where There Is Discord. I was going to try to do that one with you guys. And I have Comancheria. Yeah, there's a few of them. But anyways, here's my answer. Yes, I do have a queue. Zia Legends of a Drift System as well would be fun. But anyways, I'm into war games. I'm a latecomer to this. I guess I've always played them on, I've always played on a computer Panzer General from way back in the 90s, the original Panzer General. And then there was one in the 90s called Fantasy General. I really loved that one. It was basically the same game, just with dragons and stuff, and magic. I actually think I like that one more than Panzer General, but that's the dungeon diving person in me. But yeah, Panzer General 2, and then there's even a game I play on my iPad called Panzer Corps, which is just a Panzer General game made by Slytherin. I love playing those games, and there's even an Order of Battle one, Order of Battle Pacific. I've really enjoyed that one, although I've gotten bored with it. There's like a lot of expansions for it, and I keep buying the expansions and play like 6 turns and then I quit. But I think it's just because the battles take so long. I get tired of it. But anyways, I'm not here to review video games. I'm just trying to say that I've been playing war games for a long time. I've just not played them in board game format, is probably the better way to explain it. And of course, when you're first starting out, people recommend things like States of Siege games, from Victory Point. And my honest feedback on those is that they're too simple. I did like Cruel Necessity. It was a neat game, and I actually learned a lot about that English period and some of that history. But it was neat for 1-2 nights, and then I'm done, right? So the D-Day games, I really enjoyed them, but they take many nights to play, and there's a few of them I would still get out again. I don't know if Pelelu is one of them, but somebody mentioned that they play Pelelu because it always kicks their butt and they just want to beat it someday. And I think there's some truth to it, because I want to get Pelelu out again because I want to beat it, not because I enjoy it. I'm just pissed off at it. But if I got out another one for enjoyment purposes, it would definitely be Omaha Beach or Tarawa. I thought both of those were the better games. But anyways, I'm sorry I'm digressing so much. The whole point I'm trying to make with this answer is this game has a lot of what I'm looking for in a game. It is challenging. It has some luck, which I don't care about. I'm okay with it. I think that the way the AI is implemented in this is fascinating, with the way the cards work. I've played a lot of coin games, and the coin games have a complicated AI, and I would say that this is about the same level of complexity as a coin game. It certainly has the same number of, this is the rule, but there's 12 exceptions to that rule. So I see a lot of similarities. So that's something with war game designers. They just don't understand how to streamline a game. Anyways, and that is frustrating, by the way. Coming from a Eurogaming background, that the Eurogaming designers streamline their games much better. getting back to the point, the thing with the coin game is once I finally figure out how to work those AI bots, which are not simple, it's a big decision tree, which is fine. Some of those decision tree spots take 15 minutes to figure out what they're actually supposed to do, but when you play it enough, you get to a point where you know exactly what the AI is going to do when it's their turn. And you can even predict it, and you can sort of game it, right? You can, since you know the AI is going to do this, you're going to, and you have like two choices of what to do in your turn. Oh, I'm going to do this instead of that, because I know if I do this, the AI will do that in response. But if I do this other thing, then I know the AI will do something else that'll work out in my favor. So that is a criticism I have with Coin, although I love what Coin is trying to do. So anyways, the thing that is fascinating me about this one is I have no freaking clue what the AI is going to do on their turn. I have to draw a card to find out. And even after a core is activated, we're drawing 3 allied action cards to figure out what each unit's going to do. I mean, it's just a complete crapshoot. And I really feel like I'm playing against an opponent, which I think is super duper cool. Now, what annoys me about this one is all the damn exceptions to the rules. I get that December 16th has its own rules. I can accept that, and that's fine. The part I'm not liking is how I'm going through the player aid, and then there's things like, oh, well, if it's a city or a town, you got to do this, but it's not written in the player aid. I'm just supposed to know that because it was written in the rules somewhere. That's what's frustrating me about this one is the player aid by itself is not, it does not have everything I need to just play. Like if I just had a little reference chart that said, hey, if you're attacking from across a river, you have to cut it. I mean, some of those things would be really handy. And by the way, that example actually is in the player aid, so please don't correct me on that one. I was just trying to use it as an example, and it was a bad one. Anyways, back to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is our hand. All right, so we got our Panzer Corps that we really like. However, they're beat up to hell and back, so I don't know how much more I can really... this replacement point is nice, but we can't do it until the 20th, and we're only on the 17th. So, and we got 2 of them, actually. So that's pretty interesting how we got 2. One's the primary, one's the... All right, so then we got 2 of these as well. So very interesting. Okay, so that's our hand. Let's also grab the units here. This would be reserve units. I'm just trying to sort them by type. This one's one of ours, so I need to put it down there. And the same with that one. Oh, somebody mentioned that if I have mechanized infantry, I can still do an infiltration, because that's considered an infantry. Excellent point. Mechanized infantry is considered to be infantry, so I could still do infiltration. And the 3 that were in question were these guys. So this one, I think because he has the little infantry symbol in there, he's an armor that's a combined arms. So now this one's mechanized infantry, but that's because he took a damage. But I guess it's because he's combined arms, so the damage basically eliminated his armor. And yeah, so those ones, I could have played that infiltrate card to get the flanking bonus. But somebody mentioned, that was another rule I was getting wrong. Somebody mentioned that towns cancel out flanking. So where is it? All these are allied. Play if the attacking with at least 1 infantry Defender is considered flanked regardless of the number of hexes being attacked, and the unit attack is not considered a 1 hex attack, even if all attacking units are in 1 hex. Okay? What a wonderful thing. So I was playing that, right? And somebody pointed out that towns cancel that. If they're in a town, you can't do that. There is no flanking in a town. Well, wouldn't that be nice if that was written on the player aid? That's a perfect example of what about these rules are driving me a little batty. Is this was a perfect place to tell you can't do it in towns. It doesn't do that. So that's what's driving me nuts, because I'm supposed to remember that, and I didn't know I was supposed to remember it. So anyways, getting on with the game, we have a whole new phase we've never seen before. So we did this. We prepared our allied command cards and action deck. So there is no allied interdiction. You may play a bridge engineer's command to repair or build a bridge. So I think I can only do that if there's no enemies on the other side of the bridge. So let's see if we have... So there's a bridge engineer's event. So I'm assuming that's a command. It says event, so I'm assuming that's a command. Yeah, we actually got several of them. So we can do this to build a bridge. I'm willing to bet there's a lot more rules behind this than just simply saying, yeah, you can go build a bridge. So let's check it out real quick. And then these guys are all over there. Oh, I should have... Okay, so I am confirming here that those bridge markers do get placed even when there's an existing bridge to show that you control it or the allies control it. A bridge changes ownership when a non-owning unit crosses the bridge, or when a non-owning unit begins its activation in a hex bordering the bridge and no owning unit occupies the hex on the other side. So the key important part here, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so sorry about that. So the key thing is that if you control a bridge, the reason you put those markers there is that you can trace supply across those bridge markers. So that bridge marker right there shows that German supply can go across the river there and reach the units that are on the other side. So that is an important point, and I'm going to probably make a little notepad of that, because as much as I'm telling you this now, I'm going to forget it in a few moments. Okay, so I think I got to find the supply phase. Oh, why can't I find the supply phase? Yeah, this is a long video of nothing. I hope you guys had a movie to watch while you're... I can't even find the damn section that talks about this. 14. Okay. All right, so it just says that engineers can build bridges. All right, so what do we got here? Supply for all units in play is determined during the supply phase. Supply for a hex is determined at the moment any one of the following functions is performed in the hex. In order for Allied engineers to destroy a bridge, at least one hex bordering the bridge hex side must be an Allied supply. In order for German engineers to oh crap, sorry about that, to repair or build, at least one hex bordering that hex side must be in friendly supply. To place a German reserve unit in a hex, the hex must be supplied. Okay, so this OKW thing, we have to be near the Muse, which is way over other end of the map. We're not doing anything there. So a unit or hex is in supply if a path of no more than 4 hexes can be traced from the unit or hex to a hex on a friendly map edge or to a road hex that is a valid supply head. So what's a supply head? Why do they use these terms and then all of a sudden, boom? What's a supply head? The hex for which the supply is being traced may be an enemy zone of control. So out of supply, units D and F are out of supply but are still in communication. Unit D traces a communication. There we go. So let's look at this. So D traces communication path to 1411, which doesn't do any good because I can't read what the numbers are. So what are these gray things? I thought those were enemy units. So if those are enemy units, then they have zone of control here, and then D would not have communication. I don't understand that at all. It's saying it's out of supply, but it's in communication. Unit G is out of supply and also out of communication. Oh, fudge. I'm wasting everybody's time with this recording. Okay. So I'm going back to D. Out of supply. This unit's supply path directly across an unbridged river hexside is only 1 hex. The hex the path enters in is not a supply head. It's 1 hex short of the road. So that's why this is an issue. Because you go 1 hex and that's not a road. So the river must do something to impact supply. I don't get it. This seems like it's an extremely... Here we go. Now it explains what a supply head is. A whole page after it, it mentions what that you're supposed to have a supply head. So here it is. A road hex is a supply head if a path of connected road hexes can be traced from the hex to the edge. That's all it has to say. Does the road go to the edge or not? Period. As long as it doesn't go through enemy town or hexes. Understood. It can go through zone of control, but only if occupied by a friendly unit. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to stop. This whole section was not easy to just read. I'm still trying to figure out where can I build bridges with my engineers. I mean, can I literally repair a bridge that has an allied unit on the other end? It doesn't tell me. The bridge section is on 16. As long as the requirements in the event description are met. Oh. So now it's telling me to go to this. So here you can see, play during the supply phase to repair a destroyed bridge or build a new bridge across a river. German supply must be traced to 1 hex. Got it. May not be played during December 16th. So in neither hex bordering the hex side may be occupied by or in the zone of control of an allied unit, unless occupied by a German unit. So, for example, this bridge right here, this hex is in supply. There is no zone, well, there is zone of control from this guy, but I have a unit in that spot, so that's the exception. And I should be able to repair this bridge. This bridge I can't repair because there's a unit sitting on the other end. But this one I should be able to repair. This one I can't. And there's a 4th broken bridge somewhere. I just don't remember where. One, two, three. I would swear there was a 4th one. I guess not. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could play a card to repair this bridge. I'll consider it. So then the next thing we end up doing is we have to determine supply status of all German units on turn 19. So we can skip it for us. Of all Allied units. Adjust their supply status, remove roadblock markers that aren't in communication. Check your hand of cards indicating that's for turn 20. So this shouldn't be that bad of a turn. What allied unit would not be in have any fuel? I would say they all do. I mean, especially here. I mean, you know, there's no issues with any of these. The only ones that are maybe in jeopardy are like this one right here. But because we have zone of control here. And so that's a question. Let's go back to that. The path may be traced through a hex in an enemy zone of control only if occupied by a friendly unit. So this guy right here, can go to this hex here because there's an enemy, a friendly unit there, and then he can go here, which is a road, and then from there, because this unit's here, he can follow the road to the edge. Or just take the road this way, I guess, but I'm assuming this unit's blocking the road here. This unit is. So he would have to go this way. And he can, because this unit here is protecting their road supply. If we were able to eliminate this unit, we would actually cut off all the supply to all 4 of those units. That's pretty badass. I sure in hell hope I'm understanding this correctly, because if that's the case, that's definitely a top priority for us. And that guy's not that hard to take out. Okay, so I'm concluding that everybody is in supply. Now the Germans are always in supply. Here's my question. It says the Germans are always in supply, with the exception of von der Heid. Von der Heid. Okay, so whoever mentioned to me that von der Heid can't be placed in the woods, play during your impulse in any unoccupied, non-town, clear, broken, or woods. That means I can place them in the woods. Von der Heid can go in the woods. So neener, I got one right. Unless this is trying to say non-clear, non-broken, non-woods, I don't think that's what it's trying to do. Okay, so do not check for roadblocks upon placing it, roll for supply. Check it, supply per normal supply rules during the supply phase every day. But then the supply rules tells me that on 16 through 18, they're in supply, but then it says exception, see the command. So that's like an infinite loop. That's a very poor written rule. Unless it's trying to say that the German, I have to trace a German supply with it. Like a supply path. Of no more than 4 hexes can be traced from a unit or hex to a hex on a friendly map edge. Maybe an enemy control. Enemy town or city hexes. So I can't go through an enemy town or hexes. I would say that he's now out of supply. So I would take an out of supply marker Because there's no way in hell where he's located, he's tracing supply to us. I mean, we're getting close to being able to provide supply to him, but not that close. I mean, like, I have some units there. I'm even sitting on a supply depot, but he's out of supply. It just says that the unit, oh, if somebody's out of supply, you get to draw an extra combat chit. See, that's something that would be nice. Actually, I think that is on the card. And then if at some point they could surrender, I guess. So eventually it's going to become isolated. And then after that, it has to do a surrender check. So, okay. So you only have so many turns to get to this Vanda height thing. All right. I understand the importance of supply. It's realistic. I think every game, including computer games, come up with the wonkiest supply rules ever. And they're not always adding value to the game. But these ones are falling desperately close to being that way. Although a very powerful strategy is, of course, is if I can get that whole wall there to go out of supply, then that becomes easier to defeat them. So I get it. I mean, I don't want supply to be removed from this game because supply seems to be important, and a nice strategy there. So, okay, so I spent 47 minutes just going through the freaking supply phase. So, my apologies there. I do have my 6 cards. Okay, so I'm just going to hit end. I mean, I'm contemplating deleting this video and starting over, but I don't want to. So I may just do this and ask for forgiveness because I'm rumbling and stumbling. And this one was a lot of stumbling. But I think after this, I'm fine because I'm just going back to the part that I've already been doing. And so that's not so bad. It was just this supply phase that really threw me for a loop. So let me do that. I'm going to go get a drink and maybe take another couple minutes and then I will get started and do what I consider to be the fun part. And that's actually doing our actions and blowing stuff up. So thank you. Stay awesome. And yes, to the question, I plan on doing another playthrough of this as soon as I feel like I have the hang of it. And I'm not, spending 47 minutes going through what does the supply phase mean. So if I can get to that point in this playthrough, I'm going to stop, even if I'm not done, and then we'll start over and do it for real. And I'm also looking at the Allied solo game. I mean, this game is 2 games in 1, for Pete's sakes. I'm excited because then I get to be the Yanks and see what happens with them. I'm assuming that one's harder because since the Germans are on the attack, right? We're attacking. It's easier to come up with AI to defend than it is to try to come up with AI that's going to attack effectively. So I think that's the reason why this one was recommended. And it's probably easier for that reason. But anyways, I'm anxious to try that too. So, all right, it's peanut butter drink time, and we'll see you soon.